Our next guest is someone we've had on. He was on with Sandy and me here on KFGO, and Amy Eiler and me alone. And he took a year off during the COVID year, 2020. But basically, he's become a great friend of a lot of people. And I've been saying, Lenny Wagner, I've been telling people that you're making Fargo your summer home.
Hi, Jack. You're right.
Hey, listen, Lenny, let's give a little background on you and Fargo. When did you first come to Fargo for the Roger Maris Celebrity Golf Tournament? That's when you started coming.
I first came in 1987.
And since then, you've been to every Maris?
I've been to every tournament since then, with the exception in 2020 there wasn't a tournament because of the COVID year.
You know, back in the olden days, you came with a whole plane load of people. Must have been 10 or 15 of you that were here, and why was that?
Well, it blossomed into that. It took about 4 or 5 years for that amount of people to come, but the reason that happened was in 1987. The reason I came in 87 was because I had become friends with one of North Dakota's Major League Baseball players who was lesser known than Roger Maris, of course, but his name was Ken Hunt from Grand Forks. He and Roger Maris were born the same year in '34 and competed against each other in several sports. And so they became good friends. And Ken Hunt was in the minors, owned by the Yankees for most of the middle '50s. And after he retired from baseball, he went into private business, and his boss bought him half interest in a bar, which happened to be about 2 miles from where I lived. And I discovered that he was a half owner, and I had already gone there a couple of times, and we became friends. And I just asked him a couple of years after I'd known him if I could come to the tournament. He said, sure. I did. And then within about 4 or 5 years, we had about 12 people, from our bar that wanted to come.
And you've met quite a few celebrities at the Roger Maris. Which ones stand out in your mind?
Well, the first year stands out in my mind a lot because I'd been kind of removed from, knowing any baseball celebrities except for Ken Hunt. And so the first year I was there, I was like a kid in a candy store. I met Bob Allison, who was a longtime player for the Minnesota Twins. Was a really nice person. I met oldies but goodies like Enos Slaughter, who I just got an autograph from. But I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I got carte blanche, with my friend Kenny. He would take me to the celebrity guest room up in the top story of the Holiday Inn, which is still there. And there were so many. Johnny Blanchard, which was a third string catcher, and was really nice to me. And Moose Scourin, a lot of names from the 50s and 60s that your viewers might not even remember.
Well,
but it's just so many.
Lenny, why for so many years you would stay for 3 or 4 or 5 days, then you had to get back. But when and why did you choose to stay for 2 months in Fargo, North Dakota?
Well, that all happened just about 5 or 6 years ago. I got an attachment for people that I didn't want to just be here for a week, and I worked it out with my boss, who happened to buy the Lealoa from indirectly from my friend Ken Hunt, who sold it. And I bartended at that bar for almost 30 years. And I worked it out that I could, be gone that long as I took care of my shifts. And I did. And I stayed that long because I made so many friends that I just didn't want to leave in 1 week because I wouldn't have a chance to visit with them. So for a few years, I stayed for 2 weeks. I stayed for 2 weeks so I could. Excuse me, I had to kiss a bartender goodbye. I stayed for 2 weeks because it gave me an extra week to visit with my friends, and then I said that wasn't enough, and so I just got spoiled. And starting around 2015, I stayed for like 6 weeks, and I think the last 5 years I made it to 2 months because I found a place where I could cheaply stay for that length of time without having to pay $80 or whatever it is for a single person to be in a motel room.
Yeah, well, you're blessed. And
I am.
Growing up, do we have another moment or so, Eric? Yeah, we allowed a little extra time for you. Growing up in Los Angeles, you've told me some stories about TV shows you've been on and celebrities you met while you were there when you were working at the golf course. Can you?
Well, yeah, in a short, I can shortly. When I was about 20 years old, I had worked at a executive kind of golf course that is no longer there. It's next to where the Inglewood Forum still is, across from where Hollywood Park used to be, and where now SoFi Stadium or the Rams play is. I worked in the golf course as a starter, and I could sell merchandise in the pro shop, and I met a really beautiful lady that came in one day, and she wanted to buy some shoes, and I wound up selling her a pair of shoes, and it turned out to be the singer Nancy Wilson.
There you go.
Who was really popular back in the '60s, and I went after I got done selling her the shoes. I said, "Has anybody ever told you look like Nancy Wilson?" And she said, "I am Nancy Wilson." I said, "Oh, that makes sense then." So that was kind of embarrassing, but that was probably the first one I ever met. But my dad was a golfer, and he took me to some nice courses. And over the years, I caddied a little bit, and I met James Garner and Peter Falk, Colombo, and briefly I met Dean Martin. I met through his caddy. And it was just kind of a chance meeting. I never got to know them very well, but probably the neatest person I met, of celebrity status was my father and I played in a tournament, father-son tournament, with Donald O'Connor, the song and dance man from the movies, and his son. And that was a thrill. That was circa about 1988 or so.
Well, Lenny,
and he was a gentleman.
You've had a good life. Your mom and dad loved you, your sister loves you, your nephew loves you, and you've got a raft of friends here in Fargo, North Dakota. And we just, and thank you for joining me again, buddy.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you. It was a pleasure.